we've got the glue set up on the plugs. I came up with an idea last night. I think I'm going to fill the wall of the door, the interior of the door, because it's hollow. I'm going to fill it with foam. I was also considering how I was going to go about mounting the hangers on here. My original thought was to have the bolts countersunk into those, because this part of the door was going to be rubbing across the door trim. But I've since changed my mind. I went down to the hardware store, Tractor Supply, and I got some carriage bolts. And rather than having the bolt heads hooked to those, which will leave these exposed and it'll make a kind of a funny looking thing on the side of the door, I'm going to put the carriage bolt on this side. So all I'll have is just the shiny head. And I'm also going to take these carriage bolt heads and machine them off so that they're just barely there. They're thin enough to not hit against anything, but they're thick enough to be strong enough to hold the hangers on the door. Because the door is really light. I don't need to have a whole lot of grip on it. So that way I'll only have these little shiny heads showing, and that should make it so that this is a much neater looking operation. The door gets painted. The coating that's on it right now is just primer. I'm going to take this little pole saw, which cuts very flat. It has very little set on it. And I'm going to cut these dowels off flush with the surface. Then, because the hanger is this big strap, it will cover up the dowels. So it's all going to look nice and neat. And I'll trim these off flush with this surface. And that will also let me drill in from this side right here, in between the two dowels. And I'll take some of this expanding foam. It's called Touch Foam Home Seal. Some companies call it Great Stuff. There's lots of different names for it. But I'm going to drill a hole in here, and I'm going to inject this area with the expanding foam. That will put a kind of a lattice work of foam on the inside and make it stronger. I don't know that I need 3 of them, but I prefer to have more foam in there than what I need rather than less foam. Since this can is only good for one-time use, I might as well use it all up. I can see the foam expanding through the holes that I've drilled. Now while that's setting up, I can go ahead and drill the holes through this to put the carriage bolts in. For that, I'll have to flip it over. One thing I've discovered about Great Stuff, or the expanding foam, you don't want to get it on your clothes. It does not come out. One thing that wasn't with this drill when I got it, and since I found it in the dumpster, I really can't complain a whole lot. It didn't have a chuck key. So I'm forced to borrow one from another 1/4-inch drill that works, but it's not exactly the right one. I have been forced at other times, in days when I didn't have as many tools as I've got now, to take a screwdriver and put a peg into the hole and then use the screwdriver as a lever to tighten the chuck. That works. It's not what I want to do. And because I have a pretty large supply of tools, I have a reduced shank 3/8 drill bit that'll fit into this 1/4-inch drill. So I'll be able to drill the 3/8 holes that I need for the carriage bolts. Making sure I got the flutes lined up where I want them. Now those dowels are all ingrained. It's kind of a pain in the butt to drill through them. Now this is a single speed drill. Doesn't have the variable speed on it. And 1250 RPMs is a little fast for a 3/8 drill, but it's just a little. Drilling in wood, not so much of a problem. Now what I'm doing here to line that up, I always put a cross line on the hole that I'm going to be drilling. Then I take the 2 flutes, which are on opposite sides, and I set the flute on one side, and then I go over and look and see if I've got it lined up on the other. If not, I'll move it one way or the other until it does. Then I turn the bit 90 degrees and check it again against the other cross line. That way I'll know that the point of the drill bit is right dead center in the hole that I want to drill. I'm going to pull, I haven't plugged the drill in yet, and I want to give it just a little shot of oil right here in this bearing, because it is a plain bronze bearing, and without oil it will wear out. Wipe off the excess so it don't drip anywhere. I'll set that on top of the rods and we're good. Now I know I keep unplugging the thing and it's kind of awkward to have to keep moving it. It's just one of those things, you know, you save a second now and lose a couple hours later while you're trying to get your fingers stitched up. Myself, not having to get my fingers stitched up is of real importance to me. Well, that should have that problem solved then. This reduced shank drill is from a cheap set, but if you use them carefully, they can come in handy. This is one that I got from Jim Thompson. And he sharpened it to the point where it's like a razor. It's nice knowing where your tools came from. I don't have that with every tool that I own. Some of them come from auctions and garage sales and places that I know that people will never be known to me. But when I bought this one from Jim Thompson, I knew exactly who made it, and that was why I bought it. Jim and I were friends. We shared a lot of history in common. Not that we worked together, but we did the same things. We had a lot of good conversations. Before he passed, Jim had become one of the experts in his field, which was sharpening chisels and restoring chisels, making new handles for them. So when he decided to thin the herd and lighten the load, I made sure to buy as many of these as I could afford. So when I get out an old chisel that's got a busted up handle, it's just because I've got it. When I come up against something that I really want to do a good job on, I pull out one of these.